What is up, BookTube? It is Montgomery, and today I'm here with I think this is going to be pretty short, because I don't really know how much I have to talk about this, but it was the inspiration for today's clownery, and that is A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. This is the conclusion of the first arc of this journey that we take in A Court of Thorns and Roses. It's the last book with Feyre as I think the main character, definitely the main perspective. And let's talk about it. So A Court of Wings and Ruin picks up pretty much essentially where A Court of Mist and Fury leaves off. This is a conclusion, guys, so I'm gonna spoil it. I need to get that out of the way. I'm also just going to, I guess I can set it here. Okay, so A Court of Wings and Ruins, it picks up essentially right where A Court of Mist and Fury leaves off. So Feyre is back with Tamlin in the Spring Court, trying to figure out what she's going to do. Eventually, you know, she gets out, she gets gone, and she makes her way back to the Night Court. She also kind of like destabilizes the Spring Court and like maybe leaves it open for Hybern to just easily swoop in and take all of those people. Here's the thing. I think that A Court of Wings and Ruin does its very best to execute a finale with what it has. And it doesn't have a lot, because Sarah J. Maas, I really think, kneecapped the series in A Court of Mist and Fury. I do think that was a low point. I did give Wings and Ruin 4 stars because I had a good time, but I think that a lot of the actual systemic issues that the series has really appeared in that book, beyond just it being a first-person narration where we don't really get to see other characters doing things. Sure, in A Court of Wings and Ruin, Feyre is more involved in the day-to-day actions and she's more invested in the planning in this war. But at this point, the story is pretty much on the track. Like, there's not a whole lot of places this story can go. There's not a whole lot of things that can happen here. Like, we are going to fight Hybern, and whether we do that this way or this other way, it's going to happen. And so a lot of what happens is it does feel kind of like the tension isn't there, but in the setup isn't always there either, because a lot of the groundwork was laid in Mist and Fury when Feyre was being kept in the dark. So A Court of Wings and Ruin, it gets us to that final epic battle, and it does a lot of like little detouring and like, you know, we're going like this, but it doesn't really ever, it doesn't feel like a conclusion, really. Like, when you're reading A Court of Wings and Ruin, it doesn't really feel like this is the end of a journey, which is, I think, is why the series was, I could understand why Sarah was at her house, you know, maybe working on whatever book she had to work on contractually, and then at night was like, I'm gonna write some fan fiction and continue. Because she didn't conclude it here. Like, sure, we finished this epic war situation that doesn't really feel like an epic war. And again, I might be biased because and it's not fair. It's really not fair to compare everything back to this series by an author that you enjoy more. But I do think that it was executed better in Throne of Glass, whether it's fair or not. I do think that it was impossible for Sarah J. Maas to write 700 pages where you have the build-up to the war, an actual war, and then a conclusion that would be satisfactory to anybody. I enjoyed my time here, but I do think that she really gave herself an impossible task. And I do think that's why A Court of Thorns and Roses ultimately fails, because the plotting of the novels, the arc of those 3 books, is so incredibly disjointed that they connect in ways that are fine. But like I was saying in my A Court of Mist and Fury review, the world doesn't feel so much like the characters are making things happen so much as it feels like Sarah is just making the characters do things. It's like she had this idea that she wanted to do, and I'm seeing the idea, but it doesn't quite feel like an arc of anything, because again, it doesn't build to anything. There isn't really a satisfactory resolution. It just kind of exists, and you kind of have to live with the fact that it only exists. It doesn't aim to do really anything other than exist, which is why I think that a lot of the characters and a lot of the moments in this kind of fall flat. Again, though, you will never convince me that Rhysand is a good person, and I think that a lot of what happens in acowar is dependent on you really accepting the truths revealed in Akamath. Like, all of those revelations that didn't have any kind of basis in a reality that I wanted to exist in. And so when that's the foundation, you kind of have to like read acowar and just ignore a lot of the character moments because they just don't make sense. Like, it really, she like doubles down on this cartoonish depiction of Tamlin as like this evil person, and then like halfway through the novel tries to be like he isn't this evil person, which is why, and again, none of this feels earned because there isn't this time, there isn't this space on these pages to do an arc of like my lover betrayed me or any of these other things. And it also doesn't work that I think that Sarah J. Maas spends a ton of time. There's like 3 pages dedicated to Rhysand talking to Lucien. Was it Lucien? I think it was to Lucien. It might have been to Feyre. He spends all this time talking to how like, oh, you know, not every mate is, you know, a romantic thing, which I was like, okay, interesting. Like, we could maybe go some here with this. But even his explanation of like the mating bond not really being romantic, like 3 seconds later, it's back to being like this romantic thing. And there's kind of like, before you read A Court of Frost and Starlight, it does give the impression that Elaine and Lucien are going to go off and like be mates, and like it'll be a little rocky, but like they're going to make it work. And so all of these elements just come together, and it's like all of this information comes together to just be kind of meaningless. I also think that while a lot of people felt really strongly that it's unrealistic for nobody to die here, I did not care at all that nobody died. And I think that once you already have one character cheat death in the series, which we've had in A Court of Thorns and Roses, we've already had a character cheat death, it doesn't make sense that another character can't also cheat death. And so I think that it's, you know, sure, it's questionable when you choose to stick to the logic that you've created for your world and when you choose to just be like, my logic doesn't matter, but I'll accept consistency in this instance. So it wasn't a problem for me, but I could see why it would be for other people. Ultimately, A Court of Wings and Ruin, like, it was a fine average read. I had a good time reading it. If I ignored all of the things that just don't make sense, that aren't based in reality, again, I don't think I would really recommend it to people. Like, I think you have to either just be really into Sarah J. Maas to like A Court of Thorns and Roses, because I think that what is actually here to like is very minimal. But I don't think that this series is going to change anybody's mind about Sarah J. Maas. I do think that, again, Throne of Glass had a nice little plot moment. It does make me look at Crescent City a little bit differently. It does make me reevaluate how I read House of Earth and Blood. I don't know if I'm ever going to like reread and like make a follow-up video. But I do look at that series a little bit differently now, having finished these 3 books. But other than that, I don't really know. I don't really feel like I gained a lot, and I don't think other readers really gained anything for picking this up over like a Throne of Glass, or just never picking up a Sarah J. Maas book. But hopefully that ramble of a video led to something. If you've read this, let me know. I'll see you guys again soon with another video. But until then, and until next time, bye.